Thank you, Dr. Leclerc. Welcome to the launch of Climate Week. I'm Steve Howard. I'm the CEO of the Climate Group. I'd like to welcome Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon and former Prime Minister Right Honourable Tony Blair and our very distinguished panel of speakers this morning. I would also, a few words of thanks. Nothing like this happens without some thanks and a lot of people making it a success. Our premier sponsor, HP, our founding sponsor, Swiss Re, Anthony Pratt of Pratt Industries, the Dutch Postcode Lottery, and HSBC for their support. Without their support, we wouldn't be here. And Climate Week's a partnership. It's a partnership where organisations have come together to say, how can we support a successful deal in Copenhagen? You can see the partners listed behind me. I'm not going to go through them, and many of them are speaking here. Really, Climate Week was the idea that came out of our little New York office at the Climate Group a few months ago, where we said, if you're going to have 100 heads of state in New York or more just 70 days before Copenhagen, how can we increase the focus on that? And we reached out to others, and our partners in UN Foundation and elsewhere said, yes, let's work together on this and call it Climate Week. The City of New York, supported by Mayor Mike Bloomberg, offered their help in this. And now, what was the germ of an idea a few months ago has become something of an international event. There are more than 1,000 events happening around the world. Other cities, from Hamburg to Toronto, have declared themselves having Climate Week this week. So it's not just in New York. And here in New York, there's more than 70 events happening. Civil society, business, government events around the city. In fact, I came from one this morning, the Carbon Disclosure Project's launch, which was a very significant event, and Conservation International have already had one, so the week's well underway. There are 280 pages of negotiating text. There are 15 days of official negotiating time ahead of us. There is a lot of heavy lifting to be done. On the subject of heavy lifting, I'd like to go to our first speaker. I can't bench press very much. Hugh Jackman can bench press 300 pounds. I'm sure the Secretary-General would like his help in the heavy lifting that we need to do on getting a deal sealed in Copenhagen. So, Hugh, over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. Never believe what you read on the internet, ever. And as for an actor staying on time, I'll do my best. But anyway, it really is quite an honour for me to be in the same room as Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, Tony Blair, and the many business and government leaders here tonight. To be fair, as an actor, this is not something I'm very accustomed to, and probably about 12 months ago, a kind of event that would have maybe overwhelmed me a little bit. But something happened to me just under 12 months ago that really, I think, gave me a little bit of confidence, started to put things into perspective, and that was being named the sexiest man alive. And on a serious note, I am very, very humbled. Again, never believe what you read in the papers. I'm very, very humbled to be here today. It's an amazing occasion and a very important one for me. To be able to share with you a story from a visit I took to Ethiopia in my capacity as Ambassador for World Vision, which I took with the Australian World Vision CEO, Tim Costello. I've been interested in issues of poverty, the Millennium Development Goals for a while, but it was actually a meeting we were lucky enough to have there with Prime Minister Malesh in Ethiopia, where he very succinctly and very cleverly made me realise that there is no separation between issues of poverty and climate change. They're inextricably linked. You cannot solve one without the other. In July, I went to Ethiopia, ostensibly to visit programs that empower coffee farmers to grow out of poverty, to build sustainable economic futures for their families and for their communities. Like a lot of East Africa, Ethiopia is suffering from drought. The coffee harvest is late, their economy is suffering, and farming communities are going hungry. No, not farming communities, it's a very sterile phrase, it's really people. It's mothers and fathers, it's workers and children who are going hungry. So now to my story. The hero of my story on my trip is a young farmer from the southern district of Ethiopia, the coffee-growing district called Kachore. And his name is Dukali. His wife is pregnant with their 5th child. And in a time of crisis in his land, during a time when he had worries and fears that none of us can really imagine, Dukali is making changes that benefit not only his family, but actually really benefit all of us in a small way. He uses manure from his cows, 2 cows, and other cows from the village, puts them in a reservoir just out the back of his hut there, which is built into the ground. The methane gas that rises up from that is trapped and pumped through a pipe. That pipe leads into his hut, which powers the stove in which they cook their food, they roast their coffee. It also powers the light, which now his children can read by at night and do homework for the first time after the sun goes down. And the surplus energy is used to run a small coffee house out on the street that supplies him some income, so he's not completely dependent on his crop. I mean, it's an inspiring story in many ways, not only because of his smile constantly, but in caring for his family in such a really difficult time, he does it in a smart, efficient way, and he has a carbon footprint that is negligible. I mean, it's really humbling for all of us here. Dukali really doesn't have anything materially in this world, and yet he is doing his part. So I told him, through a translator, that I would do my part, and that is why I'm here today. I'm going to use the best weapon I have, which is not the Wolverine claws or my mutant powers, but my voice, to speak on behalf of Dukali and the billion other people in developing countries who, well, they contribute the least to climate change, and yet they are hit the hardest by it. Simply stated, we must not forget the poor in our negotiations here in the UN this week and in Copenhagen. Poor communities need an agreement that meets their needs. They need financing that helps them to adapt to and mitigate against rapidly changing climate. And they need voices, like the voices up here, the very powerful voices at real forums. World forums that have the power to change things for everybody's benefit. I've seen how hard Dukali works. I spent 2 hours working with him in one of his 10-hour days. I've seen development that works, but all that progress will be undermined unless we can galvanise world leaders and ordinary folks alike to get a good deal in Copenhagen that benefits everyone. A fair, just, equitable deal. So, not just to make a difference for Dukali, but to make a difference for everyone. So thank you very much for listening to my message. I'm not sure how I did on time, but I did my best. Anyway, I would like now to introduce a short film that takes us to Copenhagen. Thank you.